In the UK, the Labour Party has just announced new plans that if they become the party of power after the next general election, they're going to build, wait for it, 1.5 million new homes in 5 years. And the beleaguered deputy leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, has said that there will be a new generation of Milton Keynes style towns. Well, I've got nothing against Milton Keynes. I've been there a few times, or its people, lovely people, but it isn't particularly pretty. Neither are many of the other new towns which have been built across the United Kingdom in the 50s and 60s before Milton Keynes. Well, they seem to want a new generation of them, no, probably to be built on prime agricultural land and our green belt and our beautiful countryside, which really isn't the right thing to do. Now, there's no doubt that there is a housing crisis in the country. Everybody speaks about this. It's really hard to afford a new home. You need a salary of hundreds of thousands if you want to get your own home and get on the property ladder in London. It's just as hard if you're in one of our university towns and cities around the country, Edinburgh, Oxford, Cambridge, Bath, to name some, where it's very, very difficult to purchase your own property because they've got out of control. The property market has just got so overheated because there's so much demand and very little supply, or not enough supply to cope with the demand. There has been supply over the last 24 years since the turn of the century or the turn of the millennium. We've been building about 150,000 homes on average per year. So we've built 3 million new homes since the year 2000, but that hasn't kept up with demand. The number one reason, which I've said for many, many years, that we have a housing crisis is rapid mass immigration. But if you mention that on the mainstream media or near anybody who's a representative of the Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green Uniparty, you'll probably be accused of being a bigot or a racist, because that's the language that they use. But even a child can see, if you have a rapid increase in your population, which is due to an influx from migration, and you don't build enough homes to house everybody, you're going to have a housing crisis. And that's exactly what we've got. In the year 2000, the population of the UK was about 60 million. Now, officially today, it's 67 million, but unofficially, it's probably more like 75 million. It's certainly something between 70 million and 80 million. You can ask people quietly in the water companies, the supermarkets. They know how many people are in the country because they need to know, because they have a business to run. They need to deal with a certain amount of water, provide a certain amount of water, provide a certain amount of food for the people in the country. So they are the ones that really know how many people are in the country, and they will tell you that it's a lot higher than the official figures if you find the right person and you ask them quietly. So we have a housing crisis, and of course, if we continue with rapid mass immigration, as we have done and as we have had since Tony Blair came into power in 1997 with New Labour, and that continued with the One Nation Conservative, fake Conservatives under Cameron and May and Johnson and now Sunak, it was never ever going to change. We've got 10 to 20 million more people in the country since 2000. We've only built 3 million new homes. It's simply not enough to cope. That's the reason why there is a housing crisis. Now, whoever can compete, and the parties are going to be competing with each other before the general election to say, I'm going to build this many homes. No, I'm going to build this many homes. No, I'm going to build more homes than you. Do you know what? None of them are ever going to live up to their promises. The Tories, the fake Conservatives, said they're going to build 300,000 homes a year. They didn't do it. What they are building is disastrous, because every town and city and almost every village in the country, even in the countryside, even in rural areas, are being ruined by these horrible, brutalist tower blocks and, functional, unhuman, depressing new homes. You call them a home, I call them a smart housing unit, that you would just go in to be depressed in. They're not beautiful homes at all. What we should be doing is controlling our borders, making sure we train our own young people to do the jobs that need to be done in this country, rather than relying on an endless stream of ever-increasing rapid mass immigration, which of course leads to crises, and not just in housing, but education supply, in the amount of doctors and nurses and GPs there are and dentists there are to treat people. I mean, it's all interrelated. So Labour are promising a big boom in housing supply. That isn't going to solve the housing crisis. The only way to do it is to control our borders. And I've said in the Heritage Party, we need a strict cap of 100,000 per year student visas, bring that down from 200,000 or 300,000 a year, a strict cap of 100,000 work visas, bring that down again from 300,000 a year. And we need to train up our own young people rather than relying forever on cheap migrant labour. We need to get a lot of young people out of universities who are doing noddy courses, and people who are staying in school till they're 18 to do retakes that they're never going to pass, who would be far better off going into an entry-level job, training on the job, learning personal skills, maturing, and then they would have the money to buy their own house, and then the difference between supply and demand, the gap would gradually come down. You're never going to solve this overnight, because this is a problem that's been nearly 30 years in the making. But we gradually need to reduce the demand, and we don't really need to increase the supply that much. It can increase organically, but the main pressure is the demand. Lower migration, deport people who are here illegally as migrants, and then the housing market will sort itself out naturally. We don't need lots more horrible, brutalist carbuncles all over our countryside, destroying our green belts and destroying our prime agricultural land. That's not the way to do it. So if you want a solution to the housing crisis, please come and join me in the Heritage Party, because we got the problems, not the problems, we've got the policies that will make it happen. Thanks.